What's up, guys? Thanks for watching the podcast. I truly appreciate it. I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe from you. That helps the YouTube channel grow. And I wanted to drop in and remind you one more thing. If you have any friends, family, or anyone you know looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, please have them call me. Get in touch with me via email at blake@blakebaker.net or on Instagram at blakebakerrealestate. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Under Contract podcast. All right, let's just start from the top. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Under Contract podcast. We are back again with my friend Alberto. Second time back on the podcast, but we were just having a conversation before we started recording here, and I said, hey, this is a perfect time to start recording. So you do flips, you do Airbnbs, and we were talking about the Galveston market, and my good friend Kyle Watts, he's an agent down there in Galveston at Remax Leading Edge. And he was telling me a little bit about kind of how the market turned down there. And maybe you can kind of maybe validate what he was saying. But we were just talking about the rental market, how it's kind of popular. Like real estate has gotten super popular in the last, I would say, 5 years. And that lends itself to, if you know what you're doing, you can do great. And if you just say, I want to be a landlord and go to the bank and borrow a ton of money and buy a house without a real plan, without either a plan of let's get in it and let's get out of it in this amount of years, or let's pay it off and have it actually cash flow good money, or let's hold it and then sell on the high end and make our profit and pay our capital gains tax. Without a game plan, it can be a dangerous game. And you were telling a story that we decided we're not going to talk about it in detail on the podcast, but you were telling me a story that was kind of a little bit kind of that situation. So correct me if I'm wrong. Did the Airbnb bubble pop?
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think so. I think in Galveston, especially, a lot of the people, a lot of your listeners that are based in Galveston or have properties in Galveston, they'll agree. Really, I think a lot of us based our numbers, at least newbies like me, based our numbers off those 2022 or 2020, 2021 numbers when you had a lot of that revenge travel going on after we were locked down for so long. Then people were just like
revenge travel.
They call it revenge travel. And it's still going on. Actually.
Where it's like we weren't able to, and now we're gonna travel.
Yes. So
I've never heard it called that.
Well, I've seen some statistics too. Just with like I think it was Memorial Day. Like the TSA had screened a record number of people in one day. Yeah. Like I don't know, 2 million or however many. But they're still calling it that. Is this revenge travel from being locked down for however long we were in 2020? And then people weren't wanting to stay in hotels. Remember, we were in the middle of COVID. People didn't want to be as close to other people. And so Airbnb like really popped.
Yeah.
Like it was on fire during that time. And so those of us, myself included, and my wife, that we got involved or started doing or looking at Airbnbs around 2021, 2022, we're looking at the trailing 12 months of numbers, right? And those numbers were skewed because we had a lot of people traveling and wanting to go out. And so,
super inflated.
Yeah. And so we were underwriting our properties like that. But one thing that we had just in our working in our benefit was just having our reserves like shored up. And anyone can tell you in Galveston, it is highly seasonal. And you're really going to make the majority of your money within about 3 months.
Yep.
From about mid-May, end of May, all the way through July, maybe a little bit into August. And then the location is crucial. All of our properties, they're midtown, which means that we're just kind of in neighborhoods. You've got working class neighbors to the left, to the right, across the street. And so we've got to stand out. If you don't have that location that's, 5 blocks or less to the seawall, which is kind of walking distance to the seawall, you're right on the beach or you're on the West End, Jamaica Beach, things like that. If you don't have that going for you, then your property has to just stand out. It's just got to look different. It's maybe offer different amenities, hot tubs. I've got friends who built pools in their backyards to try to increase their occupancy. Video games, and I'm talking just the stand-up full-size video games, things like that can help your occupancy. But there are a lot of Airbnbs listings in Galveston, and Galveston's primarily 2 zip codes, 77550, which is like 45th Street East, and then 77551, which is like 45th Street West to like 80th or something, or way out there. But I kind of call that Galveston proper, pretty much. And so you have hundreds, if not thousands, of Airbnb listings, and that can be anything from a single family home to a condo. And so you've got a lot of competition, and it's definitely saturated. And that's what's been happening over the past 3 years. And so you still have people coming in wanting to buy properties. And I'm a member of many Facebook groups, and there will be people posting in there, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Galveston, and what's the short-term rental market like? And people will then just kind of pile on, and, you know, your average daily rates are lower than they were last year. So your occupancy may still be up, but your profit is down because you've had to charge less per night than you did last year or the year before. And we're seeing that too, you know. And then again, it kind of refers back to your reserves, and can you kind of weather whatever we're going through, or this bubble that has popped? Can you afford to hold on longer? Like you mentioned just a second ago, is you have to have a game plan. Because if you don't, you know, you can get in serious trouble, and then you start to leverage even more to try to stay out of trouble. We've seen experienced investors, or at least in our eyes, they're experienced because they've been in it longer than we have. You know, I watch foreclosures. So I track the foreclosures in Galveston, and I check them. I look at the Galveston County Clerk's website pretty much 3 or 4 times a week, and I'll see seasoned investors that I know personally, their properties are up for pre-foreclosure. Now, some lenders, they'll just automatically, you know, file the paperwork if you're 31 days past due. But I'll go out and I'll talk to the investors like, hey, man, you know, I see this thing is posted on the county clerk's website, and then they give me their story. You know, oh, man, I just got in over my head, or, you know, I had these overinflated ARV numbers, and now the market, not just Airbnb, but the retail market in Galveston.
Oh, dude, it's, yeah.
I think average days on market is 8.5 to 9 months in Galveston, you know. And I told you, it's kind of split up into 77550. If you think about Galveston, 45th East, I think I'll look on Zillow, and I'll just do for sale 77550. And there's like 380 listings.
Damn.
For sale in this really small area. And a lot of those, unfortunately, are former like Airbnb listings, because they're being for sale, fully furnished, or, you know, you can get that, you know, as part of the purchase. And those are the people that just didn't underwrite properly.
Yeah.
We got in trouble too, you know, but we can afford to hold on. And wait till this market, you know, rebounds.
You just don't take a profit. You just pay and
just don't take
hold
a profit. Yeah, you just hold it.
And then I did see that Galveston is starting to treat Airbnbs like a business as far as personal property tax.
Yeah, that's something that I need to talk to my CPA about. I look at it as really, I try to take any news, whether I feel like it's negative or positive, or it's going to hurt our business or improve our business. I try to just be level-headed about it all.
Like, what can we do to make the best of this?
Right. Just try to do your best, because that's all you can do if you want to stay in that market, or you want to continue to operate, you know, a short-term rental. So I've got to talk to my CPA about that, but we're prepared. You know, we're prepared to pay whatever it is, whatever the city decides. I know there's a lot of advocates. There's some short-term rental, like the short-term rental board. I think it's called STROAG, STROG. I think it's what it's called. STROAG is what it is. And that's a group in Galveston that, you know, they lobby for rules and regulations and things like that to not only help short-term rental operators like ourselves, but also help the neighborhoods and the neighbors where we're operating in, you know, to make sure the laws and everything, the regulations are fair for everybody. So I know that they're looking into these tax regulations. I think the argument, or what is it? The complaint is, well, Galveston hasn't done it for so many years. Why are they choosing to do it now?
Well, it's still a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
So like when Airbnb popped on the scene in what, 2015, 16?
I think it's probably been around longer than that. You know, I think it's just been more popular.
So it's like, it's new. It's like very new. So I mean, when something first pops up, not everybody's sure how to deal with it yet.
Yeah.
And it just takes the government a little amount of time to look at it and say, oh, hold on 1 minute. Let's see. You're a business? Okay.
Yeah.
Which I get it. I mean, you know, say if I my neighborhood, if I, you know, if all of a sudden the house across the street was an Airbnb and there was, you know, some rowdy tenants in there every now and then, and it became kind of a thing, then I might feel a certain way. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the like pushback or why are you complaining group, you know, those are people that, well, it is a business. You are operating like a hotel, and I get it. But usually those businesses, the true hotels, they have much greater resources.
That's true.
To go out, you know, to really take care of those changes or those changes in taxes and things like that. But when you're looking at the mom and pops, right, that are out there, again, have your reserves, have that stuff shored up. It just comes as like a sticker shock, I guess, so to speak, when you go from not necessarily having to do that and then boom, the next month or the next year, it's going to be something that's going to come up on your taxes.
And then the waters get murky too, where say if I have a beach house in Jamaica Beach and I want to spend the fall there, like say August, September, October, and then during the summer, I want to rent it out. So then it's like kind of both.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you do with that?
I don't know if that's a question, you know, for my CPA. We'll talk to him about that kind of stuff, but that probably is going to happen a lot too. It's those people who do have, it's truly a vacation rental for them. You know, it's some place that they want to go to during those winter months or whatever, and then rent it out in the summertime. Yeah. It's kind of, it gets mixed up, you know, like how do you address that stuff? But I mean, you do have the benefits too of when you buy these rentals and you hold on to them, you have the tax benefits that you do get from depreciation and things like that on the properties that you can kind of, I guess, offset some of these additional taxes that are coming up.
Man, and no one saw 7% interest coming either. So if you had a 3 to 4% interest rate on an Airbnb, yeah, you could float it.
You're sitting pretty.
Yeah, you're sitting good. But man, these guys that, you know, like that situation you were talking about, that dude had a 6.5 or 7.5%.
I'm that guy, Blake. I'm that guy. So, you know, again, we're underwriting these properties back in 2021 is when we got our first one under contract in August, the end of July 2021, and we spun it up in like May of 2022. And that was actually, I think that interest rate was maybe in between 5 and 6% when we refinanced. And that felt kind of high. You know, but then
you'd kill for that now.
Yeah, our next one that we refinanced, which was in June, and that's when things.
So why are you refining? To get out of the hard money?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, to get out of the hard money loans. So, and that's kind of like the BRRRR method. I think we talked about that at one point in time, but that BRRRR method where you use a short-term loan, and usually that short-term loan can cover the full purchase price and renovation and holding costs if you can underwrite it properly. And it's usually about 6 to 12 months, higher interest, and you're only making interest-only payments. So you're not paying down that principal at all. But the goal is to renovate the property, and you force this appreciation of the property, and you go get it reappraised when you're done doing this renovation, with the hope or the idea to basically go get another long-term loan at 75% of whatever that appraised value is, and then that's your new loan. So we got that first one refinanced in May of 2022. I think it was in between 5 and 6. It might have been right around 6. The next one was in June of 2022. The next month over, that interest rate was between 6 and 7. And then our third one we refinanced in July of 2022, and I think it was like 8% at that point in time. Now these are commercial loans as well. They're not like your Fannie Freddie, you know, conventional loans. They're DSCR loans. That's what we had. So they're going to have another 1.5 to 2 points than you would normally pay with a conventional refinance. So, yeah, you know, and then should we even go into insurance?
Not now. I mean, dude, I think insurance is the sleeping giant as far as foreclosures go.
Yeah.
I had a listing last year in El Lago, and dude, it's a $330,000 house, which is darn near first-time home buyer price.
Right. Yeah.
$1,000 a month for insurance.
Yeah.
Wouldn't sell.
Yeah.
Who would buy that? Who would buy it? And what are the sellers going to do? Because unless there's some like government program that helps them out to get that cost down,
right,
it's not going to be a sellable property unless you just turn the price down to like a crazy low number to make the payment make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really tough place to be in when you're trying to sell your property. And I've said this many times, is really the only time that you can really lose money in real estate or with a stock or whatever, any other investment, is when you exit, and if you can afford to hold on as long as possible. And some people, they need to sell, whether it's job relocation or family grows, all those reasons.
Well, they call them the 5 Ds.
Yeah.
I always think of dodgeball: dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. No, but it's like death, divorce, diapers, having a baby. You need to upside. There's always going to be those reasons that people have to do something.
They have to, yeah. And then when you have to do something, then that's when you can kind of lose your money there. But I'll tell you, like, being in Galveston County is not just hazard insurance. You've got windstorm, you've got flood. And in Galveston, similar to Houston as well, it can be street to street, like lot to lot, as far as flood is, and even windstorm. And I can't figure this out. I've got a note to call our insurance broker. We have 2 side-by-side houses in Galveston, and the difference in flood and wind and hazard is like $2,500 total. And I'm like, how is that possible? They're identical properties, both 3.2s, both about 1,100 square feet. Both were appraised about the same amount whenever, like, they were like $5,000 off when we got them refinanced. So their loans are about the same. The loan amounts are the same. And I can't understand why one has higher windstorm and higher flood. And their elevation cert is the same on them. I can't figure it out. So I've got a note to give her a call to see if we can get those things, like, shopped around, to just help out with those.
Or have an adjuster come out.
Yeah.
Like, dude, just come look at them. They're right here.
They're identical. Yeah. But, our property in League City, I think our hazard insurance is maybe, I think it's like $600 a year.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. And, but our properties in Galveston, when you add up the insurance and taxes, it's like $6,500, $7,000. You spread that across 12 months, and you like paying an extra $500 or $600 a month on top of your higher interest mortgage. But that's our baby, and that's kind of what we've backed ourselves into, and we'll just hold on as long as we can.
Yeah. I mean, if you can sit and hold it until rates come down a little bit, if you can knock 2 points off, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of probably it's either that or sell.
Yeah, I think our plan would be to refinance if the rates drop, even a point. Like, if we can save a point, I think it'll be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can use this time. I mean, even on my end, on the retail end, 2020 through 2023, really. I mean, everybody last year was saying how bad it was, and I had my best year ever last year.
Yeah,
I was fortunate to find myself in a couple situations where I sold a couple deals over $1 million, which I had never sold a deal over $1 million before.
Wow.
So it's like I had like 3 last year that were just like grand slams. So yeah. I mean, those 3 deals alone were huge. I mean, that swung my year big time. But this year is like, it's really made me reevaluate everything about my business. So I can only imagine like how I'm tightening down right now, and I'm really dissecting like my whole process of what I do to get business. When the market turns, it'll probably be more like I'll have these good habits built, because it was so easy before. I didn't have to build good habits.
Right. Things just kind of flowed to you.
Like, you ever know somebody that was like such a good athlete in high school that they didn't have to do any, like, whereas I played baseball, like I wasn't anything special. So like if I wanted to get better, I had to work my butt off to get better. But then there was guys that were just naturally just freaks, and they don't have to do anything. It's like, it feels a little bit like that. Like it just came so easy for me that I didn't have to, it was coming too easy.
Right.
And it didn't make me develop bad habits, but it didn't make me like have to develop good ones.
Right. You just didn't have to work as hard, and I think times like this where they may seem leaner for most people, a lot of people get discouraged. And again, it's that negativity, negative talk, negative thoughts. Oh my gosh, how am I going to do this or that?
I have to pull myself out of that daily almost.
Well, you do that. And what you're saying is you're building these systems, right? These processes, things that how you're getting business. A lot of your social media stuff looks great too, by the way, but you're doing all these things. So when the times get better, I agree 100%. I'm just kind of reiterating what you're saying. When times get better, you're going to be many steps above or past that person.
It'll be the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw my podcast I did yesterday with Ronnie, the owner of Great American Title. I mean, but he sold it. But that was an excellent conversation, just talking about kind of this same deal where during those he was saying that a lot of his people he knows in business, he said that they always make the worst decisions in the crazy fast dynamic markets. And then whenever the market slows down, they get caught holding a bunch of fat or whatever the saying is, like holding the fat, basically like all the crap they really didn't need to do. And they overspent and they overhired. Then they got to cut that when the market slows down. So like, I will say one thing I'm glad I did do is put money back. I invested it well. I have investments and stuff that I don't have to wake up and like go sell homes every day to make a living. Thank God. But it's almost, for me, it's almost like an ego thing. Like I want to prove to myself that I can like do this in any market. Like I don't want to be market sensitive.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a great place to be, you know.
I want to win. That's it.
We all do. Yeah. You know, for our families, and then bring as many people along as we can, you know, along the way. Yeah. It's, you know, it's these down markets where things have shifted. I mean, last year we had several good flips, and we had one that was kind of mediocre. We had a couple, maybe 2 or 3 really good wholesale deals that we did. So we were able to pay off some business debt last year, and then also like helped with acquiring more properties. This year's has just been slower for us, at least from like lead gen and getting deals. And so we've been leveraging partnerships and things like that. We're doing a partner flip in the Heights with some amazing people you hooked us up with. And that's been an awesome project. I've got this albatross kind of hanging around my neck right now with this flip we've been working on in Galveston. Again, this Galveston market, like we're not buying anymore there in Galveston. And I still know some investors, you know, that I know personally that are down there. They're still buying. They're looking for properties, you know, and I'm like,
if you can buy it right,
I was like, go for it, man. You know, more power to you. But yeah, this one property that we've had for over a year now, and we went back in. We got a bunch of negative feedback on one of my stupid bonehead design choices, and so we went back and we're fixing that issue that prospective buyers were just saying they couldn't overcome. And so we were going to have that probably listed in a couple weeks, and just hoping to let's close the chapter.
Yeah.
You know, let's just close that out, you know. We had a flip we couldn't sell last year that we turned into a rental. And that's not bad. You know, we're cash flowing on that one, but it's just, and I just don't want
Wasn't the plan.
It wasn't the plan, right? And you just got to, you know, you just have to pivot. You know what I mean? And like one of our family mottos is FFIO. Is this PG? Rated R? What? It's FFIO, which is, you know, just effing figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so, and we kind of lead our family that way too, is whenever you experience some adversity, let's figure it out.
That's it. That's it. I was telling Ronnie yesterday, I've made the mistake in my life too many times of trying to do everything perfect. And if it wasn't perfect, I would get like guilt about it. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, bro, like life ain't like nothing ever goes to plan. Like I heard a saying one time, no matter what you think, say if you have, we're not talking about that, but say if something goes wrong, say you go to do an investment, something goes wrong, you're in a pickle and it doesn't go perfect. You have to pretty much just pivot, figure it out. But, so whatever you're worried about, like you can almost be guaranteed so any future situation, you can think all day. You wake up in the middle of the night, like thinking about whatever it is, you can be almost guaranteed that whatever you think is going to happen, good or bad, is not what's going to happen.
Right.
Like the odds of that, like the odds of whatever you think exactly it is, good or bad, it's not going to happen that way.
Right. So I've been studying like Stoicism, reading this book, The Daily Stoic, and really, I think one of the tenets of that is really 99% of everything in your life is outside of your control.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we spend so much time dwelling on the past or trying to think of this future that we're trying to make happen, and then we lose sight of today. Like, what can you do today? And the only thing that we really have control over are ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not the situation that's presented to you or the problem, but how do we respond to that? How do we receive it? How do we process it?
I'm working on that, dude. I'm the worst. I'm telling you, I always have this thing of like, one day I'll have it the way I want it. Yeah. But dude, like, if you stop and think, like, I think it's called like delayed happiness, something, where it's like, yeah, we have this idea that we're working now so we can finally get to a place of happiness. But if I stop and look, I'm like, dude, I'm so blessed. Like, I have a brand new baby boy, a beautiful wife, a beautiful house. Like, if I need to really stop and like appreciate where I'm at, and yeah, let's not look in the rearview mirror. Let's look through the windshield.
Yeah.
Like, let's keep going.
Yeah.
And you'll get there, but like, don't let your goal, like it's great. You have to have goals. They're crucial. I expect to get to a certain place, but don't let that rob you of like the life you have now. Absolutely. Like, dude, like live it to the fullest. And I'm working on that, dude. Cause like my tendency is to always be, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah. I think as entrepreneurs, like we can get into that trap, you know, and especially like as fathers as well, fathers and husbands, like we want to provide, you know, we want to build something for our kids that's going to outlive us. And you can get just kind of caught into the minutia of all that stuff on the day to day and kind of lose sight of, holy crap, you know, I do have a newborn baby, you know, I got a beautiful family, I got a beautiful home, and I've got all these things that I'm blessed with. So yeah, you do have to take your time and just kind of smell the roses, so to speak, you know. Like for our family, I think one of the things that we agreed upon when my wife and I really got married, but we had kind of talked about it a lot when we were dating, is, you know, we weren't big into like gifts, like big gifts and things like that. And I think we kind of decided when we got married, you know what, we're not going to do big gifts for Christmas. We're going to just take a vacation, you know, because it's about experiences, you know, and we talked to our kids about it too. You know, we kind of try to make those decisions together. And I asked them, I was like, you know, what did you get for Christmas in 2024? And they were like, oh, I don't know. Like, what was out then? You know, and that's the response. And then now years have passed since we've, you know, implemented this. And it's like, man, remember we went to Tennessee? We were there for a week, and I got really drunk at that restaurant, and then I was acting dumb. And they're like, oh, yeah, that was so funny. You know, it's those experiences. Yeah. You know, and
I love that, man.
And that was an interesting trip, too. So we went to Tennessee. We spent a week there, and it was in the wintertime. You know, it snows like heck in Tennessee. And we were there, and I think it was the last day and a half that we were there, or the last full day we were there, the power went out. And we were in a cabin. The cabin had like propane tank, but they also had like well water. So the well was down because that was electric, but the propane tank still worked. So we were like, man, we'll just turn on the fireplace. Like, we're cool, you know, everything's fine. And we ended up using water from the hot tub to flush the toilets and everything. Man. Wasn't a big deal, though, because we had our Uno. Like, we made the best of the situation, you know? And I'm like, what is complaining going to do? Like, what problem is that going to solve? Because everybody's out of power, you know? And we were short-term rental. I believe I don't know if we had them by that time. But anyways, the operator was messaging us the best they could, saying, hey, we know the power's out, you know, we can find you guys another place. We're like, don't worry about it, you know, we have food. And we went to go eat dinner, and we came back, and we got the fireplace on, we're just playing Uno by the light, and everything's fine. And they ended up refunding us some money or whatever, but they didn't have to. But the you know, the lights came on. But again, like real estate, being an entrepreneur, whatever it is, you know, how are you going to handle that situation? You know, you can choose to just be bitter about it or just make the most of it.
And I hate to have like this existential kind of like view on things. But here's the thing. You're going to die one day, and 100 years after you die, no one will ever even know you existed. So like everything we do, you have to look at it like, so there's this dude, he's like a real estate coach I follow. His name's Ricky Caruth. And I've been cold calling a lot lately. And he goes, okay, you're going to have 5 stages of cold calling. You're going to have, here's stage 1, deciding to make calls. Here's stage 2, dialing the phone. Here's stage 3, like getting through the crap, like just the no answers, the people cussing you out. And then you come back up, and then here's on the way back up, you realize I'm not going to die from making calls.
Right.
Because like, life and death is really the only thing that matters. Everything else is right here. Like money, everything with money is right here. That's why, I don't mean to get political, but that's why Donald Trump is so fascinating to me. You got a guy who, do you imagine the pressure he's been under before? Mm-hmm. Like being $8 billion in debt or whatever it is. And he just says, you just have to be of the mind that it doesn't really matter. I mean, outside of your family, your God, nothing really matters. And I'm like on one hand, it sounds dumb, but on the other hand, you kind of have to say like, he's right. Like, am I going to die from this? Like, say if you foreclosed on everything you did right now and you had to give it back to the bank, what would happen? You'd go home that night, go to bed, you'd wake up the next morning.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. You still have your life and your family and those things.
And you can start over.
That's important. Absolutely.
Did you see the clip I posted today from my podcast yesterday?
Not yet.
So here, hold on. Let me play it for you real quick.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So this is Ronnie. You know Ronnie.
Yeah.
7 is when I closed the plumbing utility business. So we had a pretty big company, pretty well on top of the world, I thought. I was working with good contractors, but they all went out of business. And, I got beat out of several $1 million and woke up October 87, and the last general contractor went out of business, owed me 800-something thousand. And that was just one of many. We got in real estate. At that time, Kathy and I both were 34 years old.
My age now.
Yep.
That makes me feel good.
There you go.
And you've been able to do all that, everything you've done.
And here's a perfect example, Blake. When I was your age, my net worth was negative 500,000. Because I owed a bank from when I closed down the company 500,000. Signed a note. I agreed I was going to pay it, so I paid it. I see a lot of you young guys. Every one of you are way ahead of me at your age, as far as in the real estate world. It just shows you what's possible.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
Like you could be like, it's never over.
It's never over.
Never.
I mean, I was in IT for almost 25 years, and over the past 4 years, we've done real estate. And I, over the past 2 years, I've done it, almost 2 years, done it full time. And think to yourself, 47-year-old guy who's been in IT for, I was like 44 or 45 at the time. But anyways, been in IT. That's pretty much all I knew. I've done a few DIY projects around the house, but, nothing major. And just decide like we need to do something different. And the pandemic was kind of a catalyst for us, with people losing their jobs and things like that. We weren't necessarily worried about that, but we wanted to just have another source of income. And a couple friends were flipping houses and things like that. So, well, let me look into that. And I just didn't really think that I could fail. I just didn't. That wasn't even in my vocabulary, was that I could fail at this. And it was more like, let's give it a try. What's the worst that can happen, right? You lose your business. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, you lose a bunch of money, but then you just start over. Like you said, you go lay your head down at the end of the day, say your prayers, go to bed. You wake up, your family, you got your wife next to you, and you got your family that loves you, and you just push on. So that was I wouldn't necessarily call it a huge leap of faith. Obviously,
dude, yes, it was.
There's faith in everything we do, but making that change, I just really didn't think I could fail. I just really didn't. And I'm not, I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but I think just having the support of my wife, we hired an awesome coach too. I think that was game changer for us as well, and getting connected with the right people. You know how it is, when you start in real estate, you start surrounding yourself with these people that are usually 1 or 2 stages ahead of you. It's like, how do I get there? Like, what can I learn from you?
You have to have that.
Yeah.
Because and it's always changing. Yeah. Like you'll get to a level one day where the people that were coaching you, you're going to be right there with them. Mm-hmm. Then you have to say, how can I go? Okay. So for everybody who listened to the podcast yesterday, forgive me for freaking repeating everything I said yesterday, but you need to listen to this book if you haven't. It's called 10X is Easier Than 2X. Have you heard of it?
I think I have, yeah.
Dude, absolute game changer. Okay. So the principle of this book is 20% of your actions are going to predict 80% of your results.
Yeah, it's 80%.
So like for me in my real estate, if I look back on my last 50 closings, I can look back and say probably over 40 of them were referrals, whereas I could have done absolutely nothing and I would have got those. And then there's, maybe 10 of them where I really like pressed and worked and got these and procured them myself. So he talks about taking, like, for example, in real estate, the book is about shedding off all the stuff that doesn't drive my business. I need to hyper focus in on the things that only drive my business, which for me is I need to have as many conversations with people who own properties as possible. That's it. I need to get listings. Who has listings? Property owners. Need to talk to property owners. Mm-hmm. It's like it's really groundbreaking stuff. But, you know, a lot of realtors, and I was the world's worst at this. You post and then you expect the business to come to you. Yeah. Dude, like it's not like that.
No.
And, anyway, so this book is about shedding your 80% and just doing your 20%. So like for me, it's like, I don't need to be doing paperwork. I need to be hiring someone, which I have an awesome transaction coordinator, Stephanie. She's the best. I let her do all that now. So I can, instead of sitting there typing a contract right now, I can do a podcast with you. Mm-hmm. So now I'm getting way more done by focusing in and shedding that 80%. So then, but what will happen eventually is my 20% will become my 80%. And then I'll have to find a new 20%. So who knows what that looks like, but it could be me, I start by delegating all my stuff and then I'm making cold calls. Well, that could eventually be me hiring a marketing guy. He does the calls or whatever kind of marketing I want to do. And then all I do is just steer the ship. Mm-hmm. Then that could become me opening a brokerage and having somebody steer my ship while I go open a new company. I mean, there's just no telling where it can go. Right. But you always want to be finding your 80 to get to your new 20. So the book, and that's probably a terrible description of the book, but you ever listen to a book where like every other like 5 minutes you're like, wow. That's how I felt the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've read a couple books recently like that, but what I'm hearing from you is that you're constantly like leveling up, right? You're leveling up your business, your processes, and you level up those processes by delegating those things, whether it's a VA or a transaction coordinator or marketing person, things like that. And what that does is it just kind of amplifies what you're doing because you're one person, well, man, what could I do if there were 3 people like me? Okay, let me go hire one person to kind of take this load off. And now I can focus on this 20%. Totally get it. Yeah. And I'm stuck. I kind of feel like I'm stuck, especially when we got we got 8 co-host clients on board with us right now that we're co-hosting for. And as soon as I told my coach that, the very first thing he said was, you need to hire a VA. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be a permanent thing or whatever. He goes, you just need to hire a VA. Because you're going to get stuck in the weeds. Yep. And you're going to be answering, guest messages, addressing issues, things like that. And you're not going to have time for sourcing leads, looking for deals, talking to homeowners or motivated sellers or whatever.
And in the book, he talks about you get your time back. Yeah. So it's like you literally manipulate time. So like for me, he was like, you don't want to work harder. You want to work smarter. So for me so the book is called 10X is easier than 2X. So like for me, theoretically, it would be easier, like from an effort perspective, to 5 to 10X my business than it would to double it. Here's why. Because for me to double my business, I would just have to work twice as hard. I would have to work twice the hours, twice as hard.
Well, that's our mentality.
Time away from the family. So I would have to just like write handwritten notes all day and all night and just grind out that it's just going to be more, work, and you get burnt out. You freaking hate it. Rather than, like you said, hire a VA, just hire someone to do that stuff. And then say you hire the VA, you're free from guest messaging their complaints. You're putting out fires all the time. Now you have free time to level up even more because you have that free time. In the book, he talks about opportunities that he had because he was like, I just had free time. Now I have free time. Now I'm open to new opportunities. And had I been just stuck in the weeds, I never would have been free enough to find these new opportunities.
Yeah.
I was like, why? He's like talking about, he said this guy says he schedules 150 free days a year, like free to like either just brainstorm or read or just Dude, I'm telling you, you got to listen to this book.
All right, yeah, I'll put it on my list.
Yeah.
I'll put it on my list. I've read a couple books from Ryan Holiday recently here. One of them was Right Thing, Right Now. It's that's a really good book too. You should read it.
Right Here, Right Now.
Right Thing, Right Now by Ryan Holiday. He's the one who wrote that Daily Stoic book. And the Daily Stoic book is just a daily kind of stoicism or saying, and then his explanation it's done like on a calendar. But his newest book is called Right Thing, Right Now, and it is just really good on just living your best life, and helping as many people that you can, and just doing the right thing, every single time in your family, with your relationships, in your business, from ethics to morals, like all those things. It's really, really good book. Just kind of solidified, I guess, our foundation where we were, but it was good to read.
Right Thing, Right Now. That reminds me of, I told you I've been cold calling. So it's funny how you ever like get an opportunity to work with somebody, and it's not that they're like a bad person or that there's just like something about it where you're like, I just don't think this is like a fit. Mm-hmm. Have you ever run into that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I found with cold calling, man, and I accidentally like said it a certain way on the podcast, and I was re-listening to me and Ronnie's podcast, and I don't even know why I said it this way, but I was telling him about it, and I was like, yeah, you get enough people on the phone, you find someone that you can just have a conversation with, because it's so much that way, because people they're wrapped in all different. It's like Christmas presents under a tree, different wrapping paper. Like everybody's different.
You don't know what you're going to get.
You don't know what you're going to get. Like some people, I'm telling you, it's ring, ring, ring. Hello. Hey, this is Blake with Remax. I did it. Who is this? Yeah, Blake with Remax. I was seeing if there's anything in the world I could do to help you. No, and do not. How did you get my number? And blah, 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 blah. Then there's some people. Talked to this dude yesterday. Hey, forget his name. I think his name was Joe. Hey, Joe, this is Blake with Remax. Hey, bud, how you doing today? Right then, I'm like, this is a guy I can talk to.
Yeah.
And I'm good. Just enjoying my morning. Hey, I didn't want to take up too much of your time. I was wanted to let you know I sold this property around the corner from you. I just want to see if there's anything I could do for you. Man, we're going to stay here a couple years, but I'll tell you what, I'll save your number. And it's like, dude, it's just a matter of finding those like certain people that you just work with. And I just know in the future, that's a guy that when he calls, I'm going to be like, I want to work with that guy.
Yeah.
Just like based off their temperament.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just kind of, at least what I've experienced with cold calling, it's that numbers game, right?
Oh, it's all volume.
As many of those calls as you can put in, and contacts that you actually make, like real contacts, people picking up the phone. And I think probably, 75, 80% or 90% of those are going to be those negative Nancy's, but, and they don't necessarily waste your time. They kind of, you build that callus, right, for the next person that's going to yell at you or whatever. How'd you get my number?
Oh, you quit caring.
You quit caring, but then you get Joe, and you're like, okay, cool. I'm gonna nurture this, right? Your drip campaign, like, all right, he's in there, like,
dude. And what I do is I grab an email from him, and then, dude, like the good ones will be like, hey man, thanks for calling. I appreciate your information, and we'll talk soon. You hang up the phone. That feeling when you hang the phone up, it's like a drug, dude.
Yeah.
You're just like on top of the world. Like I had the courage to pick up the phone to call somebody. I impacted them in a positive way. They impacted me in a positive way. Boom. Now it's like just like a little inch higher than I was.
Yeah. I didn't realize this podcast was going to be a therapy session for me. So like my biggest fear is cold calling.
Dude, it was mine too.
It's my biggest fear. And what's interesting about that fear is,
do you cold call for wholesale?
No, well, yeah, I guess we can. Like, it just really depends. But I've cold called properties that we've seen driving for dollars, and also people in pre-foreclosure, or referrals of people that send us properties that they see just they're driving for dollars, like from our bird dogs. And this fear, right, that's in our minds, it's just there. That's where it is. There's nothing true about it. It's just here.
It's evolutionary,
right? It's just there. And if I go back and look at my track record of my success rate with cold calling, I'm probably batting like 700, because I've made that few cold calls, but of the few that I've made, they've turned into deals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I scared of? And I think it's just that fear of rejection.
It's built into our human psyche for some reason. Because I've actually watched videos on why we're scared of this.
Okay.
It comes from us not wanting to be seen as like we want to be accepted by the group. And there's a chance that you catch somebody that's going to reject you. So then we feel rejected by the group. And it's like in our reptile brain, like we don't want that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just kind of retreat back into our shell. I'm never doing that again. Like touching a hot stove or something. It's because I've gotten those responses too, you know, and cold calling pre-foreclosures is really hard, by the way, because you're cold calling someone that is in a distressed situation to begin with, you know, and you have to have like a level of like tact when you're talking to people that are in those situations as well. So I think I've got that mastered as far as talking to people in that situation. Is just a matter of them wanting to talk. But those driving for dollars, I've gotten good success from making those cold calls.
Dude, I got a guy who, man, I can't find it. But I left him a voicemail. He texted me, dude. He was like, call my realtor. Don't ever call me again. You're a piece of S realtor for trolling records to get business. And I can't even tell, I'm not even going to like go into detail about the rest of it. It was like the most vile.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? You know what he meant to say? He meant to say, hey, Blake, thanks for calling. I'm not interested. Yeah. That's what he was saying. But he was putting his little flavor on it. And I'm like, okay, how does that guy talk to himself in the mirror? Probably just like that. And how does he talk to his kids? How does he talk to, probably just like that.
Yeah.
So that says more about him than it does about me.
Oh, yeah.
Because my intention was, hey, I saw your listing expired, and if you wanted to sell it, I'd love to help you.
Yeah.
I'd love to help.
Yeah.
No, you don't want okay, great. Thanks. Bye. That's how it would have been.
Yeah. I mean, we get that a lot as well. You know, when we're either cold calling or I'm cold texting people. I think in the last, and it's been kind of a shift, but we just want to help, period. We want to help as many people as we can. And I think over the past maybe year, maybe less, maybe 9 months, I've probably helped 5 people get out of pre-foreclosure with no...
And they don't have to foreclose.
They don't have to foreclose. And I didn't make a penny. No, they didn't sell. They just stayed in their houses. They were able to either do a loan modification. I learned some lenders have this thing called a partial claim where they'll take whatever they're behind and they'll just put it as a second lien on their property at 0% interest.
Okay.
And then they just pay it off like if they sell the house or refinance or something. But I've helped 5 people overcome pre-foreclosure and I didn't make a dime. And they asked me, well, what do you make? I was like, honestly, I don't make anything unless you want to sell the house, unless you're in a situation where can I get you some equity out of this house, give it to you, and can I make a small profit from it? And none of those situations presented themselves.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, cool. I did what I felt was the best thing I could do for these people, you know, without pulling the wool over their eyes or trying to take something from them. And never heard from them again. And I see their properties no longer on the pre-foreclosure list. I'm like, great. You know, they were able to stay in their homes. I mean, these people got kids, you know, family members.
Yeah, man.
And it's a tough situation. And I always approach it just with, you know, with empathy and like, I just genuinely want to help. Mm-hmm. Majority of people respond in a negative way though. And I get it, you know, I get it because they think that person on the other end of the phone they just want something from them.
And they've been called before by people who do just want something.
Yeah.
Like, and that's sad.
Yeah.
But that's not us, you know?
No.
But yeah, my game plan with cold calling is I'm at that point where I realized I'm not going to die from making calls. Now I'm almost like oddly, like I look forward to it almost. It's almost like a slot machine.
Yeah. Like a game.
Yeah. And like I said, whenever I talk to somebody who is happy to hear from me and I enjoy having a conversation with them, and dude, you never are going to run into somebody that wants, like I have yet to have somebody be like, yeah, run me a CMA, let's list. No, like I want to talk to you. I want to hear your situation. I want to stay in touch with you. And whenever it makes sense for you to do this in your life, like I want to be the guy that, you know, I took the time to reach out to you because I care, you know, I like a good 2-way street,
mm-hmm.
you know, and again, it's a volume thing. And just finding the right people that click with you and that you want to work with. And my goal is to cold call for like 5 to 7 years, like straight. And what I do is I knew this was a thing that initially I was going to have anxieties about. So I said, look, I'm going to do it Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's 2-hour sessions a week. That's 4 hours a week. That's if I can't do that, I don't need to cold call. So I've started with that, and now I'm in a groove. So now I'm at a point where I'm like, man, maybe I add Friday after lunch. Maybe I'll just go hop on an hour or 2 hours. And I'm getting to that point where it's like kind of fun.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is just get people's email addresses, put them in my weekly email. I don't know if you've seen on my Instagram, I post about my weekly email sometimes. I send an email every Friday just with whatever I think is interesting market information or my listings, my just solds, news, stuff like that. So they'll get my email every Friday, and then I tell everybody, hey, I'll send you my email. I'll stay in touch. If you ever need me, just reply to the email or my information's in there. Just call me. So hopefully I can get, my database is at like 300 people. I've already doubled it in like 3 weeks from 150. So hopefully I can get 3,000 to 4,000 people in there, and then get like a couple deals a month just from my weekly email. Yeah. And then that's a revolving door business. That way I'll never have to make another cold call.
Yeah.
Unless I just want to. And I might just want to.
Yeah. And then those from that list, right, and doing business with those people, then those turn into referrals later, and it just kind of branches out. Now you're motivating me, man.
Yeah, dude.
You're motivating me.
But here's the thing with referrals. When I'm at that level, when I grow my database and my sphere that much, then I would love the referrals. But I did run into a point by working by referral where I realized that I can't grow exponentially working by referral.
Right.
When you only work by referral, it leaves you super exposed to market conditions. Because like if you don't have business coming from different places, like a couple things that Ronnie was talking about yesterday, he got in with some companies on their relocations. So I called a couple buddies of mine that work for Toyota. They work for, another buddy of mine works for some plant, couple buddies, one at Lyondell. So I texted them. I was like, hey, do y'all have like a relocation department that for your workers moving out of Houston or moving in? I'd love to talk to whoever's the head of that department. I want to become like the go-to realtor, because I had never thought of that. And Ronnie said something about that. I'm like, bro, that'd be more business than I could probably deal with.
Right.
So like those type of, you got to have it from different angles. I can't just go off of, when you think real estate, think of me, like that ain't going to do it. I mean, yeah, you can do 20, 30 deals a year max doing that. But I'm not going to go from 20 to 30 to 100 doing that. I don't, maybe you can, maybe there are agents that have done it, but you have to expose yourself to massive amounts of people, whether that's by cold calling, whether that's by spending $50,000 a year on Zillow leads, whether that's spending $50,000 a year on billboards like on 45. You have to be in front of 100,000 people a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be a lot.
Yeah.
And I've just found cold calling to be the most effective, like straight up. And the other cool thing about cold calling, man, get me off my freaking soapbox here. But one thing I've noticed is if I call areas around where I'm from, was calling Morgan's Landing in LaPorte the other day, randomly see a last name I recognized. And I'm like, I know that. So I look him up on Facebook. It was a guy I knew, and he had married this other girl I knew. So she answers the phone, and I'm like, hey, this is Blake with Remax, and this is really random, but do you remember me from high school? Like, she was like, oh my God, yeah, how are you? Dude, I'm in. Like you're connected.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then you just never know who you're going to run into. I ran into a guy who I had bought his dad's boat from him, because I saw the last name, and it's a not weird, but a unique last name. And I said, by the way, are you related to Joseph? He was like, yeah, it's my dad. I was like, I bought your dad's boat. He was like, wow. And he doesn't want to sell yet, but he wants to rent his place out when he's about to move out of state. Yeah. So it's just like stuff like that, where it's like, I already kind of like have a foot in the door with this person in a certain way. And then I can leverage that to, and had I never been sitting there and had the balls to sit down and make those calls, I would have never talked to those people.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of helps you in other situations too. Yeah, I got to get to it, man. Is because I've been looking at a couple houses. Again, I said I was done with Galveston. There is one house in Galveston that I do want to buy. I'm not going to give it away, but there's just one house that I want to buy there, and I've got the owner's contact information. I'm like, oh, let me just go call this person. And my wife is like,
Go door knock them.
I could do that too. They live in Katy, so they live in a nicer area.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so-
Yeah.
so
Have you
it's
sent them mail?
I haven't done any of that stuff yet.
Send them a letter.
It's interesting. I will. No, I'm going to do all these things. I promise you. Like, now that we're talking about it now, I'm putting it out there. I've got to hold myself accountable. You could probably text me tomorrow. Did you do this? I'm going to send them a mailer. I'm going to cold call them. My wife can't, she doesn't get it. She's like, why are you afraid of? You know, remember when you cold call that guy and we got the house next door to the other house? Because that was a cold call.
I don't want to bother people. That was my whole thing.
Yeah. I don't, like, most of the time people don't answer, you know.
90%, almost all the time.
Yeah, or the number I have doesn't work or disconnected or whatever. But it's I don't know what it is, but she's encouraging me. You're encouraging me. So I think this is just a sign to make the phone call, because that is one house I would love to get and keep.
Hey, you never know what you can get to. So I had a guy, it was on a waterfront dude in League City. I was calling expireds. And I said, hey, is this Mr. So-and-so? He said, yeah. I said, hey, I saw your listing expired, and I was just trying to figure out what to do with the property. He's like, no, we just bought this place. I was like, oh, man, well, I was trying to get a hold of, I guess, the person who owned it before. I apologize for interrupting your day. He was like, oh, it's all good, man. You work around here?
Yeah.
Then there you go. Yeah. Conversation. Got his email. He's like, yeah, we want to be here for a while, but we want to buy property, really. So save my information. I was like, well, what's your email? Got his email. You just never know where it's going to lead, dude.
Just never know.
And and people want to talk, dude. Like there's certain people that they just want to talk.
Okay. All right, man. You're building me up. So
let's go.
Yes. I'm going to get it done.
Dude, I would keep talking, but I have to be in Santa Fe in 25 minutes. Yeah. So, you go make 5,000 cold calls, and then we'll come back and see how it went. How's that?
Okay.
Fair enough?
Yes, fair
enough.
enough.
All right, fair enough.
All right, man.
All right, bye, everybody.
See ya.